Just when you thought it couldn't get any worse.
Also on leave is Defence Minister Linda Reynolds, who's not denied reports that she called alleged rape victim and former Liberal staffer Brittany Higgins a lying cow.
The minister responsible for Brittany Higgins at the time of her alleged rape lashing out in her office on the day Brittany dared to go public.
She needs to resign immediately.
I think it makes her position all the more untenable.
The PM says Reynolds deeply regrets the slur, but insists
she was not making those comments, as she said to me this morning, in relation to the allegation of sexual assault. Her comments related to the further commentary about levels of support provided.
Brittany responding today, saying the comments made by Minister Reynolds are incredibly hurtful. It's just further evidence of the toxic workplace culture that occurs behind closed doors in Parliament House.
They were offensive remarks. She should never have made them. I don't condone them. But what matters is that we continue to address the substance of the issues here.
Scott Morrison standing by one minister as he batted away calls for an independent investigation into another.
No, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that because I don't agree with the precedent or the prima facie case for there being such a process, because that would say that our rule of law and our police are not competent to deal with these issues.
Arguing that case closed with police means it's case closed for him.
There is not some other process. There is not the mob process. There is not the tribe has spoken process. That's not how we run the rule of law in Australia.
But it's not case closed for the woman's family, who today voiced support for any inquiry which could potentially shed light on the circumstances surrounding the deceased's passing.
So far as the criminal case goes, yes, that's the end of it. However, the question still remains about Mr Porter's ability to continue in his role.
I think the Prime Minister should really read the room and should order an independent inquiry into this issue.
Changing culture starts with taking responsibility. And it's about time this Prime Minister took responsibility for leading.
Well, the Guardian political reporter Amy Ramikas joins us now from the eye of the storm in Canberra. Now, Amy, from the government today, from the Prime Minister, we heard a lot today about the rule of law. So is our rule of law threatened if there was to be an independent investigation into these allegations against Christian Porter?
I think it is a great over-exaggeration to say that the rule of law would be threatened by having an independent inquiry into Christian Porter. There can be no criminal case here. We know that the police cannot investigate because the complainant has passed away. We know that they have closed the case because of that. There is no question that this will be going to a court at this point. And we have independent inquiries in all other aspects of society. We have them in churches, we have them in businesses, we have them in sporting clubs. All are managed to being carried out without impacting on the rule of law. It's not an either-or situation.
Let's talk Linda Reynolds and the fact that we now know she called Brittany Higgins a lying cow on the day that Brittany was brave enough to come forward and talk about her alleged rape. Now, Linda Reynolds has apologised to her staff for some reason, the people that she made the comment in front of, but she hasn't apologised to Brittany. Is that good enough, Amy?
I don't think it's good enough. I'm just trying to imagine Brittany Higgins reading the news last night, first published on The Australian, that on the day that she had bravely come forward, that her former boss had called her this in an open office setting, not about the rape allegation, but about whether or not she got enough support. Now, I think it's up to Brittany Higgins to decide whether the level of support that she was offered was enough for her. And I think hearing that from her former boss, who then went out into the public and in the Parliament and said that her main concern was and always had been and continued to be the welfare of Brittany Higgins, I think that would be heartbreaking, and I think that the Defence Minister does owe her an apology.
Yeah, I think it's spoken volumes today. What about the Prime Minister defending those comments of her calling Brittany a lying cow? He says that they were made in a private setting, not a public one. Should that even matter?
I don't think it should matter. In fact, I think for many people at home, it's actually worse to hear that behind the scenes you have a minister saying one thing about somebody who has been brave enough to come forward with just horrendous claims, and then in the public they're talking about support and they're talking about welfare and agency and how Brittany Higgins has been at the centre of all of their thoughts. I think that it matters that it was said, it's been acknowledged that it was said, and no apology has been forthcoming to anyone except the staff who overheard it.
So, Amy, can Linda Reynolds stay on as Defence Minister?
It's much of a muchness at the moment. I don't think anybody knows what is going to happen in the next couple of days. At the moment, the Prime Minister and senior members of the government, including Simon Birmingham, have come out in support of Linda Reynolds. But I think we're going to reach a point where the public is going to decide whether this conduct is good enough for them, and then the government will have to act.
Amy, you mentioned the public there. I am surrounded by people, mostly women, who are very angry, and the events of the last few weeks have really made us feel like enough is enough and that this is a time of reckoning. Is it the same there in Canberra? Do you see anything changing?
I see a lot of anger. I was in a doctor's surgery earlier today, and the women in the doctor's surgery who did not seem to be the type of people who would be actively involved in politics were talking about it and couldn't believe the government's response to it. You can see it in the hallways. There's a lot of women walking around with a lot of anger and a real sense of this is a watershed moment, and if we don't see action now, I'm not sure how the government is going to recover from this, because I think that this ripple effect has gone well beyond the halls of Parliament.
Right across the country, I would have thought. Amy Ramikis, thanks for speaking with us tonight.
Thank you.
We'll see what happens with that one. Now, on the rule of law, this is the truth that Christian Porter does have the presumption of innocence. Bill Shorten does in very similar cases. That is the rule of law. But the point about this, I hope the Prime Minister's paying some attention. The rule of law is broken when it comes to rape and sexual assault. It is broken. And that's because, depending on the statistics, between 3 and on the upper levels, 10% of reported rapes end in convictions. This system is broken. Women know it's broken. Men know it's broken. It needs to be fixed. Who is going to fix it? Who else but the Commonwealth Attorney General must take the lead on breaking this breach of human rights associated with this failure around rape and sexual assault in this country. And the Commonwealth Attorney General is a man who we know is bound up in allegations that he has denied. He's entitled to the presumption of innocence, all of that. But can we look to him to provide the leadership the country needs to fix something which has got the entire nation now in a flat-out bloody rage?
From expert opinions to in-depth analysis and reporting, the Project YouTube brings you the biggest stories from Australia and around the globe. Hit the subscribe button now for news delivered straight to your feed.